What's going on, guys? Welcome to the WIFFY Real Podcast, man. Number 15 today. We're excited, man, because like I always say, we have a special guest today, Mr. Joey Salinas from Phoenix, Arizona. But before we get going, as you guys already know, I always love and like to give my guests an AI introduction. So before I introduce him to you on the camera, I want to share with you his accolades according to AI, man. Check it out. It says, Meet Mr. Joey Salinas, pastor, speaker, and coach in the Phoenix area. Joey Salinas is a dynamic pastor, impactful speaker, and seasoned coach based in the Phoenix Valley. With a heart for people and a gift for communication, Joey blends faith, leadership, and practical wisdom to inspire lasting transformation. Whether he's preaching from the pulpit, mentoring one-on-one, or motivating audiences in workshops and conferences, Joey is dedicated to helping others grow in purpose, faith, and leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, with you guys tonight, Mr. Joey Salinas.
That's an awesome intro, bro.
Dude, I feel like we were in a fight or something.
I know.
Are you ready to? Oh, I can't say that because it's copyrighted, dog.
Dang it. He's like, and he's fighting Jake Paul.
And he's fighting the enemy tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Dude, thank you for being here, dude.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming. I know you live pretty far, even though we live in the same city, man.
Yeah.
This city has grown to a point where like literally you live on the other side, and that's like that could translate into an hour and a half depending on traffic, man.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you for being here, man. But dude, like I just read, you're an awesome person, man. You do a lot of things, and you're very gifted in a lot of ways, man. So today I just want you to share your story with our audience, man. Give them the synopsis, and then we'll get into the weeds of the details of the things that you actually get to do, and then some interesting stories that you brought tonight to share with us, man. So take it away, my man.
That's awesome, man. Thank you so much for having me, bro. I say all my friends that live in Buckeye are like East LA. And then I live in East Mesa, and that's like Las Cruces. so living in the parts of the valley is cool, man. But I would make this trip even if you were in East LA. I'd come because you're that awesome, bro.
Dude, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
And sincerely, I feel that love, dude. So thank you, man.
Absolutely, man. This is awesome to be here. So yeah, a little bit about me, man. I'm a born and raised Phoenician, man. Been here my whole life.
Interesting.
Born here, not very many of us. I feel like this is like a melting pot. You know, we get all the Californians and all the people from the north, and they kind of settle in Arizona and then get hit with haboobies everywhere. You know what I'm saying? So, I'm a native, but more than that, I feel like I just have so many roots in the valley. I grew up, in Glendale, Arizona, is where my family was from. Went to Glendale High School. Really cool story there is my grandfather went to the same high school. My dad went to the same high school, and I went to the same high school.
Get out, dude.
Yeah, Glendale High School. It was called Unit 1 when my grandfather went there. And so, and then my dad went there when they renamed it to Glendale, and then I went there. So kind of 3 generations, in that area. So deep roots in Glendale. Didn't grow up, in church and in faith. My family was Catholic, but we really didn't attend. We were called like normal Catholics. We go on Easter and Christmas and funerals and weddings, And so, met my high school sweetheart when we were in high school at 16, Judy.
Shout out, Judy.
Yeah, shout out, babe. And so, we've been together for almost 27 years. We've been married for 22 years. And
wow.
Yeah, we have a 22-year-old, a 20-year-old, about to turn 21 soon. And man, just grew up together, really got married at 19 and been going since then. And, pastored a church in the valley by ourselves. We ran a ministry school together, ran a business together, running a school now. Really, faith has been our cornerstone of our life. And so everything that we do revolves around our faith. Everything from the way that we run our business to the things that we do with our children, It's all really based on who God is and who we believe God's called us to be. And so that's the way we went through it. We were not abnormal. You know, we faced the hard knocks in life and went through some valleys and went on some mountaintops and really kind of journeyed through this thing of life. And really the whole goal of everything in this synopsis is that people make the difference. And, you know, I found that every relationship that God has put in front of me, whether it's you or whether it's other people, I feel like it's such a valuable thing to value them and to get to do life together. And that's really the cornerstone of what we do. We love God, we love people, and we love life.
Awesome, dude. Awesome.
Yeah.
Hey, so interesting fact, dude. So
Yeah.
I grew up in Calexico, California. And my high school, Calexico High School, same thing. My dad went there, dude. My dad went there, and then I went there, dude.
That's awesome.
But then once I grew up and I got some sense in me, dude, I moved out, dog.
You're like, Calexico, what? Nah.
JK.
Yeah.
Love the town, dude, but it's no longer the town that I grew up in, dude. It's completely different. I'm honestly, like, I've been there a couple times recently, and it just feels like a ghost town, dude, you know? But unfortunately. But dude, you are from the Phoenix Valley, dude. And it's funny you say that because as you were sharing your story, and because I know you and we've had conversations before as well, I know that you've done this, done that, and you've worked here and you've done that. And so you've kind of experienced, you know, all of Phoenix as it's been growing too, you know, and been part of some really cool things, man. But yeah, dude. So, like the introduction said, man, you're a pastor, you're a speaker, you're a coach, dude. So just real quick, break it down for me, man. So, just kind of share in a brief summary, like some of your ministry experiences as a pastor.
Yeah.
Not like experiences, things that you've experienced as a pastor, but more in the sense of like where you have served in that capacity, and then like the speaker stuff too, like what's some of the stuff that you've done there, and then all of the cool stuff too, man. So
that's awesome. Yeah. So what's really cool is that on my journey of really getting in my relationship with God before I started pastoring, is I was just passionate about serving God. You know, I felt like, man, God's done so much for me. The least I can do is serve his people. And so the first church experience I had was actually in Levine, and real serving experience. And it was a small church called Praise City Church. It doesn't exist anymore. They kind of were merged with another church way after we left there. But we ran the youth department, but it started by setting up chairs, bro. We were part of the setup team and teardown team. And, you know, I just remember like the pastor saying, hey, where do you want to serve? And I said, where do you guys need help? And he's like, we need people to set up chairs and the speakers and the soundboards and all that stuff. So I was like, all right, count me in. So I started serving, man, and just really just took it as a joy, and then found my way little by little into more people serving experiences. So from setting up chairs, we went into the children's area. My wife and I served in children's. Loved kids. Our kids were little at that time too. So we had, I think, like a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old at that time. And so we served in children's, really felt passionate about seeing kids learn who Jesus was early. Then we got involved in the youth, and that's where we kind of just really grew in our pastoral experience. So we took on a youth department in that area. And what happened was with that youth group is it was inner city kids, South Phoenix, bro. I had people from Levine, but also from South Phoenix. Right. The high schools that we covered were like South High School, right? South Mountain High School, Cesar Chavez, Betty Fairfax. One, there's some tough schools, man. I mean, there's some good kids there, but tough schools. You know, I want to say something like 70 or 80% of them are one parent or single parent or no parent homes.
Get out.
So dude. A lot of our kids came from single parent homes, or they lived with a grandma or grandpa or foster care system. And when we took over the youth department there, you know, my wife and I didn't know what we were doing. We just know we want to love on kids and we want them to have a great experience. And so we took on a little youth group of like, I want to say it was like 15 kids at the time, and then just started interacting with the city and people within the city. And after a while that grew, and 15 turned into 30, and 30 turned into 60, and the 60 turned into 100. And we were taking hundreds of kids to youth camp every summer and really just trying to get involved in their lives, going to football games, being at a football game with the parents shooting out in the parking lot at each other, like crazy stuff happening, bro. You know, parents we used to have it in my garage until we couldn't anymore because there were so many kids. We had to move to the Boys and Girls Club in South Phoenix, and that's where we had our youth because it grew out of our house too big, and partnered with them and did some stuff there. And so was doing that for a long period of time, and then God called my wife and I out to really develop more. And so we went to a church called Church for the Nations, awesome church in Central Phoenix. and really learned a lot about pastoring their adults. And we went there first just to receive. And as we were receiving there, they had a ministry school there called Supernatural School of Ministry. And really loved the pastor there. My wife was going to go. I wasn't convinced until the last day before you can stop enrolling. And then I was like, fine, I'll do it with you. Did it with her, and it changed my life. It really taught me about other things besides just like reading the Bible, but about actual having a walking relationship with Jesus and doing the works of Jesus in the everyday life. And learned about that, did it, felt passionate about it, and really from there, didn't know the pastor that by name, didn't ever have a one-on-one conversation with him. I was on the train. I was working at GCU at the time, worked there for 10 years, by the way. Great school, great experience. I saw it from the ground up, when they had like 3,000 students. And when I left, they had like 37,000 students. So big transformation process, but I was on the train, the light rail train heading home because we only had one car at the time. And I have missed a phone call. And then I hear the voicemail, and it's the pastor of the church. And this is not a small church. It's like a 2,500 member church. And he's like, hey, this is Pastor Mike. I want you to call me back. I want to talk to you about something. I'm like, oh, dang, I'm in trouble. What did I do? Principal's calling me. No, pastor's calling me. And I called him back, and he said, hey, I want you and Judy to come in my office. I want to talk to you about something. And we went in there, and he's like, hey, we have a church in Surprise, a campus. It's independent, like you pastor it yourself, but we want you to pastor it. And I'm like, I've never pastored a church, just really worked with youth. And he reassured me like, hey, well, if you've done youth, you could do a church and blah, blah, blah. Prayed about it, bro. And this is when my first supernatural experiences started happening. I was like, just moved to Chandler. I just moved to Chandler from Levine. And this church was in Surprise, bro. Bell Road and Grand Avenue.
Get out, dude.
And I was like, nah, I can't do it. And I started writing up my, hey, thank you, but no thank you, note to him. And it wouldn't send. The email wouldn't send. I tried it from my laptop. I tried it from my phone. I tried it from Judy's phone. It wouldn't send. I said, well, I'll just sleep on it. We're in bed at night. The news is on and the weather station's on. And the weather station, my TV froze and it said sunny in Surprise. And it froze for like 45 seconds. And then it turned off. And I was like, all right, this is definitely a sign from the Lord. So we told, my wife and I was like, all right, we'll tell him, let's do it on a trial basis. We'll do it for 90 days. He's like, sure, we'll do 90 days and then we'll get you to train somebody up, whatever. We went there. It was a lot of work. We were the Hispanic, young Hispanic family, and it was mostly older Caucasian. And so I was like, everybody's going to leave. You know what I'm saying? Like, we got this young guy and he's Hispanic and he's, I don't know if we got anything in common kind of situation. Surprisingly, a couple of people probably did leave. But I mean, that church turned around from like 60 to 400.
Get out, dude.
And we grew the leadership team and just really focused on the fundamentals of loving people.
How old were you during this time?
So I was probably, this is early 30s. So like 31, 32.
Get out, dude.
Yeah. So pastoring the church, young, kids are teenagers. Our worship leader was my 13-year-old daughter at the time. She was playing the acoustic guitar. And then the band came afterward, an awesome band. The Ramirez family, they're amazing. They all play. Their whole family was our worship team outside of Nadia. And so got a 13-year-old worship leader, Nadia, and, my wife and I just tried to do the best we could. And then, did that for almost 4 years. And then the Lord told us it was temporary. It was always supposed to be temporary. We got it to health. So we did 3 things was our objective. Number 1, get the church healthy again. Number 2, build up the church, not in number, but like in their faith. And it just happened to build in the number 2 and then get them out of debt. They were $3 million in debt when we left. They were debt free when we left.
Awesome, dude.
And then we found the pastors that we felt were supposed to take over. They worked alongside of us as co-pastors for 3-4 months. Then we handed the reins over, went back to that main campus. We ran their ministry school that they had. It changed. The pastor called us. We did both at the same time. So there's a little blending here.
Right.
We ran the school and pastored that church at the same time, which was like 2 full-time jobs. And really got to change that school around. We had about 250 to 300 students every single year that circulated through that ministry school. And then after that, we felt like, man, it's our season to kind of do something outside of church. And so, did that for several years. I think we ran the school for 4 years. Then I went into 100% just business coaching and individual coaching. And I'm really passionate about it because, like you kind of mentioned earlier, like I love to see change in people. I love to see people who do their purpose. And I felt like, man, if I can just make the difference in 4 people, I'm going to make the difference in 4 families, and I can make the difference in 4 communities, and then I can make the difference in 4 cities. That's my mentality, right? Because it all starts with one person.
Right.
And so just doing that in a year, I lived on faith. I did not have a job, did not have income for 18 months.
No way, man.
Never missed a mortgage payment, never missed a car payment. Yeah, there was times where it was like at 11:59, bro.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it came through and we did that, and did that for 18 months. Somehow supernaturally God took care of everything. And then I had a friend of mine at a Pastor's Faith Christian Center. We were already friends. He's like, man, I really need help. My assistant pastor left. I have another pastor that's leaving. I need somebody to come in that can do business and ministry. We'll call you an executive pastor. Can you come? And I did it. And I did it on assignment for 4 years. I just stepped away in August because we just launched our School of Purpose we finished our first year last year. Just not last year, but just this last April. We started next group in 2 weeks.
Dude, that's crazy, man.
It's a lot. I know it's a lot, but you wanted the history. So
No, for sure. Heck yeah, man. Great job, by the way. Dude, I think it was in that last ministry that you were a part of where I met you, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cause you had just transitioned from the coaching, I think, to that, or you were in the middle of that or something like that is when I met you, dude. Tell us a little bit about the coaching, man. Like, what were some of your experiences there? What did you enjoy about it?
Yeah, I love that. So a couple of things. I really found that coaches are just problem solvers. Whether you're a football coach, whether you're an academic coach, or whether you're a personal coach or business coach, you're really just a problem solver. And my passion was everybody has the answers inside of them. I just have to be able to ask the right questions to cultivate that answer. And so I really found that if I can get to know somebody well enough, I can hone in on asking them the right questions, which produces the right problem so that I can tell them that they have the answer inside of them and then walk alongside them as they answer it. And so, I took on individual coaches that were CEOs of Fortune 500 companies down to working with groups of leaders for University of Phoenix and American Express and, getting to coach some of their leaders on how to, better have retention, or whether it's how to develop people, how to build succession plans. And so that's really where I got passionate, is to see people get it, because sometimes when I encounter people, they're at their wit's end. They're either questioning that they can do it, or they feel like they don't have enough to do it. And I feel like my goal at the end of that is to show them that they have what it takes, and that they just need the support and the right questions and the right people around them to get them to that place to be effective again. And I feel like as a coach, that was my goal. Make people effective again by getting them to realize that they're enough and they have all the answers inside.
Dude, it's crazy. I forget what I was listening to, but I was listening to something recently, and I remember it now because it clicked. They were talking about how ministers make good coaches and stuff like that if they ever were to switch, because that's just kind of what you do already anyways.
Yeah.
So with all that experience, you just kind of not necessarily flip the script, but you just kind of tweak it a little bit because now it's more business oriented, But I could totally see how that definitely in your wheelhouse and your strengths, but also because I know you personally, dude, I can see how both fit you perfectly in the sense that you have that personality, dude. There's a warmness to you where when you meet you, when somebody meets you, I'll just share my experience meeting you, dude. I remember meeting you and I was like, oh man, there's times where sometimes you just connect with people, or there's just some times where you meet somebody and you didn't really connect, or there was no vibe, and you're just like, cool, you say hi, whatever, you're you do all the small talk, but then that's that. But with you, it was I met you and I was like, oh cool, there was a warmness to you. I felt like I could connect with you even though I had never met you before, and but you give that off. It's not, I don't want to say that you give it off, but what I want to say, but I just don't know how to say it, is you give that of yourself to others, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's almost like you're a cheerful giver in that sense. You give of yourself in that sense. You gave me permission to get close to you, even though I wasn't, as the first time we met,
That's right.
So, kudos to you, man. Your flowers for that.
Thanks, man. Appreciate
But that's
that.
definitely a gift. And
You're also very easy to like. What WIFFY? You're
appreciate
awesome,
that,
man.
dude. Thank you.
Yeah.
Like I said, special guest today on the WIFFY Real podcast, guys. Dude, so tell me, what's one thing that you gained in ministry, but also as a coach? What's one? Because again, we were just discussing this, and it's a gift. You know, what you have is a gift. It's a talent. You know, we all have different gifts and talents, but that's kind of your wheelhouse. Connecting with people and just kind of being open and stuff. But what's one tool that you gained for your tool chest while experiencing ministry, and then also coaching other people in regards, and specifically when it comes to better understanding humans? Like, I don't know if that makes sense, but
it's a great question. I love that question. And I'm gonna make it simple, but I'm gonna break it down a little bit.
Yes, please.
I feel like the secret sauce.
Yes, that's exactly
the secret sauce for being authentic in these kind of relationships is you really have to love people. My secret weapon is love. And I know that sounds like, oh, why would you wouldn't go tell that to a business person? Like, oh, what makes you a coach that I want? And you tell them, because I love people and I love you authentically. They're going to be like, that's weird. But the reality is this: love is just the appreciation of the value that they carry. And every person I interact with, whether it's in ministry, in life, or in business, I ask God before I interact with them, show me what you love about them. And I take a moment and I stop and I listen for the cues, whether it's in a conversation with them, whether it's in the way that they talk, and I pick up the nuggets of gold that are inside of them and I acknowledge them and I see it and I lean into it. I think that a lot of people miss the mark with people because they don't know how to see the value they carry. They make them prove it. And God never loved us because we proved that we were worthy of love. It said in the word that he loved us while we were yet sinners. Means that he loved us even when he knew we were wicked, because he knew that there was something worth loving. And so I feel like that's been my secret weapon, is to always ask God to show me the value in somebody that he carries for them. And he always has. There's always somebody with value. Everybody's uniquely different. And I just say, wow, that's awesome, God. I want to let them feel that I see that in them.
And you do.
And that's the goal. And I really feel like that's what I've carried over. That's been my secret weapon. And, somebody told me like, man, what's something you would want to share or, that made you successful? And I said, I kind of feel selfish saying it. And it's not because I do it to be successful, but it's love. It says, Jesus said it himself. He says, they'll know you're my disciples, meaning they'll know you're like me by the way you love. Not by the way you talk like church, not by the way you attend church, not by the way you do things and look, but it's by the way you love.
Yeah, it's powerful, dude. It's so simple yet so powerful, dude. And it's funny that was your answer, because again, I was having a hard time putting the words together, dude. And you're like, oh yeah, dude, the secret sauce is love. It's like, yeah, duh, you know what I'm saying? But you hit the nail on the head, dude. And that's exactly there you have it, folks. Free 99. All right, we didn't charge today for that advice, but yeah, dude, I totally, like I said, when I met you, I felt that, dude. Yeah. And now the way you explained it, it makes total sense, dude.
Yeah.
And thanks for sharing that, dude, because that actually did impact me right now, dude. And I can see how that could be. You know what, dude? On that same note, same book, different chapter.
Yeah.
I find myself, like I grew up in a great family, dude. I'm the only child. My parents couldn't really have kids. They couldn't even really have me, but I was a miracle child.
You go.
And so my mom would always say, I would always pray and ask God to at least give me one child, you know? And I would always, as a kid, tell her like, man, you should have prayed for him to at least give you 2 kids, man. But she would always laugh about that. But all that to say, dude, that I grew up with great parents. They love the Lord, strong believers. But there was a little bit of like people pleasing in that,
Yeah.
Not that they're like, not that was their goal to people please, but it just came natural to them because that's just, I guess, their way of maybe showing others love, to the point where like somebody came and visited us, and we had a full house because everybody could stay at the house. Like they would even give their own like master bedroom bed, to somebody else,
Yeah.
And so, I appreciated that because there's value in that. But at the same time, I find myself like struggling with that as an adult, or have struggled with that as an adult, because I try to find a balance, where I don't want to be a people pleaser, but I want to love people at the same time. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, and because I'm trying to maybe come across as a good guy, or not that I'm trying, or I intentionally do like approach conversations or connections every time in that way, but because I have this idea of like, yeah, let's be loving and let's be a good guy, and this is that, and the other. I sometimes just find myself kind of like nodding and being the yes guy,
Yeah.
instead of like having that genuine, true connection, At least that's my perspective. I don't know if that's how people perceive me sometimes, but to your point, and going back to your chapter, I think that's the key, dude. Just genuine love, regardless of the outcome, and then also consulting the Almighty, dude, to give you some wisdom, like you said, to know how to pinpoint those things,
That's good. I feel like what you said was really cool, because I feel like it's really the answer to balance in the balance between loving and people pleasing is having self-value.
Yes.
If you value yourself enough, sometimes your valuing yourself enough is saying no to somebody else, but your no doesn't mean you don't love them. Your no means that you value your time.
Dude. And I think that's what again, you hit the nail on the head. You helped me articulate what I was trying to say, dude. Man, you're the man, dude. You're a pro at this. But that's exactly right, dude. Yeah. And I think maybe that was my issue, the self-worth part. Like, yeah, it's okay if you say no, man, and don't feel bad about that,
Right.
like, and if they don't like you and, they walk away, well, that's that, but know your value, And for me, subconsciously, it's not that I was afraid of them walking away, but as a metaphor, like maybe there was a little bit of that, you know what I'm saying?
For sure.
But yeah, dude, going back to you working in ministry and coaching people and stuff like that, or before we get into that real quick, speaking. So I know you've done some speaking too, man. Like, tell us about that a little bit.
Well, I do different kinds of speaking, from corporate events. Funny story, whether you're a Phoenix Suns fan or not, recently, it's just about a little over a year ago, I spoke for the city of Tolleson, and they were doing like an employee appreciation, and they had two speakers that day. And the first speaker was Kevin Johnson, NBA player. Dude. And then I was the second speaker.
Get out.
Judy and I actually spoke together on that one.
Right on.
And so tell me about nerves, bro. When you go to speak to 1,000 people, employees of the city of Tolleson, and then you go in and they're like, hey, yeah, you're right after Kevin Johnson. I'm like, oh man. Kevin Johnson, like NBA player, won an MVP before, He's a mayor of Sacramento at one point, I think a couple terms over. And so that was a cool experience. So speaking in environments like that, but then also traveling, getting invited to other ministries, whether it's like Atlanta, Georgia, not too long ago, or if it's in Dallas or California, just going to go places to inspire. I feel like one of my biggest roles when I go and speak, it's not to become famous and it's not to become popular. It's to provide support to whatever organization or pastor or church that is. So when I go somewhere, whether it's, let's just say, city of Tolleson, my goal before I even create what I'm speaking about is to find out what's important to them. And I find out, what are you going through right now? What do you feel like your people need? What are some things that you've been going through? And then I formulate what I'm speaking about in a way that would provide care and help to that organization, that pastor, or that church. Whether it's a church, I'll say, hey, is there a series you're on? Is there something that you feel like your congregation needs? Hey, as a pastor, what have you been struggling with, or what do you need? And I go to try in a way to engage and inspire or to challenge according to that organization or that church, to help provide a rhythm and a momentum of where they're already going. Sometimes you see these speakers that are super dynamic, but their goal is to become famous or popular. And in doing that, they can have a solid message or a solid speaking engagement, but they really left that place in array because they dropped some nuggets or dimes that organization couldn't handle. Or you can come and provide the service and the care and execute what they've asked you to execute, but leave them in a better place than they were. And that's kind of what I do.
I think that's just part of your character too, man. You know, talking about you loving people and stuff like that, and genuinely, and then also I could totally see how that would impact your approach for your speaking engagements. Dude. Right on, dude. Let's take it back a little bit. Back to when you first became a believer, dude. When you had your encounter with God. I just want to talk specifically, hone in surgically on that moment, and then I also want to talk about the moment where you just kind of felt where God told you, like, "Hey, this is what I want you to do, man. Your purpose, right?"
Yeah.
So tell me about the first time, you know, the surrender part, and then tell me about the purpose part, dude.
Absolutely. And I feel like they kind of go together a little bit. But the first time I really gave my life to God, and I'm going to say gave my life to God because I feel like I attended church for years before I actually encountered Jesus. And so, you know, you can go to church. I remember the first times going to church, it was to appease my mom as a, 16, 17-year-old. Then I went to church to appease my wife because I wanted to show her that I was committed, and she went to church without me for a long period of time. And then so I went to church for her. And then it was in a worship moment in church at a worship conference that we went to, there was like a bunch of choirs. They used to do them back in the day. I don't really do them now. You know, I got saved in like a Pentecostal church per se. And so they had these kind of things all the time. And so we went to one. I didn't really want to go. I reluctantly went. And I was in the pew just worshiping, going through about 6 or 7 songs at a time. And then I felt in my heart like that God told me, if you want to see me, meet me in the front. And I knew it wasn't nobody around me. I knew it was God. I don't talk to myself like that. And so I was like, all right, I tapped my wife on the shoulder. I said, I'm going to go up front. And she was super surprised because that's totally not my thing. And so I went up front, got on my knees, and in worship, I felt like needed to be in a place of surrender. And it was in that place of surrender that I felt Jesus. I felt the presence of God in my body. I felt like the weight of his glory, but the lightness of my own life. And for once, everything stopped. No worry existed. No care was in my mind about anything else. I was just in the moment, and I didn't want to leave. I got off the ground an hour later. Didn't know an hour passed by. And I felt refreshed. And I said, if this is what it means to be with God, I want it every day. And ever since then, I was chasing just having an encounter with God like that. And I'm not going to lie and say it happens every day, but it happens frequently enough that I feel appeased, that I still feel that presence. In the same way, I feel like we all hear from God. I know that we all hear from God. This is part of what we teach in the school. We teach people how to hear from God. Because I feel like a lot of believers believe in God. They know that God is real, and they know that heaven is real, and they want to go there, and they want to serve him. But most believers, even today, do not feel like they hear God. And so the moment that I knew what I was supposed to do is when I prayed God. I said this prayer, and maybe you copy it if you listen today and you're like, man, I want to try this. Try it, but I warn you, when you try this, if you don't listen to God, nothing ever changes, right? So I told God, I said, I want to please you. I want to do what you want me to do. I'm tired of doing what I want to do. It doesn't work out my way. And then he said this simply. I heard it in my mind, but I knew it wasn't me because it's not a me answer. And that's how you know it's God. It's the first voice you hear when you access and ask God something. And so I asked God, I was like, what do you want me to do? And he says, if you love me, love my people. And I was like, okay. God, how do I love your people? And he's like, do my will. I'm like, okay, do your will. How do I do your will? And he said, follow my word and do what you already do well, but do it unto me. And that's when I knew I was called to pastor. Because pastoring is not about preaching. It's about caring for people. And if you have a high capacity to care, for people, you normally have a high capacity to pastor people. I've always believed this. If you don't love people, but you love the pulpit, you're not a pastor. You're a speaker. If you love the people and you still have to use the pulpit, then you're a pastor. And so, you know, the word pastor means to provide care. And so that's how I knew my calling and my purpose was to provide care. And so now how does that blend into coaching? Because it's providing care.
Right.
I really feel like I'm just a pastor to business people.
Yes.
I feel like I'm a pastor to that individual person, that corporation. I feel like it's always been me to be a pastor, but just because I wear a different title, because I'm working with an organization that's a secular company, doesn't make me less of a pastor. I'm still pastoring the business and the business person.
Right.
I don't know. Hopefully that answered you.
No, that's a great answer, dude.
Yeah.
Great answer. Real quick, I want you to tell our audience about the school that you guys founded. But before we get into that and the details of that, dude, I kind of want to share a story with you, man.
Yeah, please tell me, please.
So yeah, dude. I mean, I don't know how to really start this other than just sharing the story, but I wanted to preface it with, like, obviously in the time that you and I have known each other and stuff like that, I've kind of shared my story, kind of my background, you know, when it comes to like really hearing God's voice and stuff like that. Although I will say that I want to think that I have, you know, in previous years, because I've done certain things believing that that was the case, you know, but not really ever like where I kind of like operate in that realm, so to speak, you know, but yeah, which is interesting because I also kind of grew up in an AG church, dude, Assemblies of God and stuff like that. But all that to say, dude, that this past year, I ended up shutting down my business. I want to say like last year. So like in January, I think I officially shut down my food truck, right? And then I was substitute teaching just to subsidize some income. I knew the summer was coming. I knew I wasn't going to work the summer. And it was like the first summer where we didn't really have that extra, you know, money in the bank that we were used to because of the food truck, right? And so at this time, I have the other business that, you know, the events company that I told you about. And so we do some events, but they're like down the line and the money doesn't come in until that event is over, right? So I'm like, it's a business, but it's not really like a booming business. You know, it's growing. Can't live off of it yet. So my wife's, you know, working and stuff like that. Long story short, I start looking for a job, you know, and I applied to like the state, you know, because there was a position that I felt like kind of fit my qualifications or whatnot. Long story short, I get called, I get interviewed twice because they really liked me, not just for one position, but for another. And so I interviewed for both. I thought I was going to get the second one. They called me to tell me thank you, but no thank you. So that was that, you know? And so fast forward, we're coming into the summer, and I just, you know, being that it was the season that it was, dude, where I just felt like, man, you know, here I am. I'm 35 years old, man. And a lot of the stuff that I've tried has been successful in short term, you know, periods or spans of time, you know, but not really long term, you know. And here I am. I just did a food truck business for 5 years and I just closed it, you know. So I was kind of feeling kind of down and out, you know. I'm like, man, what's going on, you know? Not really knowing what my future held, you know. And so all of a sudden, I don't know why, but my attention is caught by this like infomercial on social media, dude. His name is Ryan Pineda, dude. Ryan Pineda. And he's like a Christian guy, entrepreneur. He does real estate and stuff like that. And he puts on like a Christian entrepreneurial conference every year in Vegas. And so I see it. I don't know why it catches my attention. And then I tell my wife, like, hey, maybe we should go to this. And so we figure out a way, dude, you know, and we go. And I'm not going to share the whole experience there, but the one experience that I had where I felt, you know, that I heard from God. And the only reason why I confidently say that is because of what has transpired after that, where it kind of confirms what I felt that day is, so this guy gets up, I forget his name, dude. You might know him. I'll tell you his name afterwards because I can't think of it right now. Yeah. But he gets up, dude. He's like an entrepreneur as well. And I guess like a multimillionaire because he's been super successful. But he gets up with like shorts and like some sneakers, like a sweater, and like his hair was made like he just woke up, you know, and he went from the bed to the stage, you know, and he gets up there and he's like, yeah, man, He's like, I'm not a pastor. He's like, but I am going to teach you guys today a little something about hearing God's word. God's voice. He's like, because that's how I've built my businesses and that's how I've gotten to where I am today, you know? So he's like, I want you guys to do these 5 things with me and take out a piece of paper and a pen and a paper, you know? And I want you to write down the last 2 things. So we go down the 5 points, right? And it's very basic. It's just like the first thing, I think it was like, ask God to quiet your mind. And then the second one was like, ask God to quiet your thoughts, you know, or quiet the noise around you, the first one. Yeah. And then the second one was ask God to quiet your mind, quiet your thoughts. Excuse me. I forget what the third one was, but we get to the fourth one. And in the fourth one, the guy's like, ask God what sin you need to repent of today. And then the fifth one was, finally, he said, ask God what he wants to tell you today, you know? And he's like, I want you to write down the sin and I want you to write down what he tells you, you know? And so, or just what he told you, you know, not necessarily the sin. And so everybody's doing it. And in that moment, dude, it wasn't like a holy moment. Like there was no music in the background or anything like that. It was just like people were kind of giggling and laughing because he had mentioned, all right, you're going to share what you feel God tells you. So people were just kind of like, ha, 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 you know? And so I think he did say the sin part too, but maybe jokingly, and that's why people were laughing. I don't remember exactly, but it was the most unholy moment in the sense of like, again, not like an intentional worship setting, you know? Yeah. But it was the most holy moment for me, dude. In that moment, as everybody was laughing, I was bawling, dude, you know? And, and I remember just like, I'll share with you what I felt. So long story short, we go through the first steps. When I get to the part of sin, dude, believe me, dude, I have a list, man. So immediately I started thinking through like, bam, 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 you know? I wonder which one's going to.
That's all of us, right?
I was like, I wonder which one is going to be. Maybe this one, you know? But the thing that shocked me is that in that moment, it was neither. It was not one of the ones that I had on my personal list, right? And so what it was is I felt God tell me, like, you need to repent because you haven't trusted me, you know? That's literally what I felt.
Wow.
And it kind of shook me a little bit because I was like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that, you know? And then I felt when I asked God, like, okay, what is it that you want to tell me? I felt that God just told me, like, or God told me, like, he literally just told me something very simple and then something profound. And the simple part was like, man, I love you, man. Like, I love you, man. I'm proud of you, man, you know? And then I felt him tell me, like, and you are that atomic bomb and I'm about to light the fuse and just get ready for what I'm about to give you, you know?
Come on. That's
what I felt, dude.
Come on.
And the atomic bomb part, I'll share with you and obviously our audience. That's like an intimate thing for me, dude, because I've always said that, like, especially in recent years, dude. I've told people, like, man, I feel like an atomic bomb without a fuse. Like, I feel with so much potential, yet I'm not using that potential or I don't know how to, you know?
Yeah.
I feel stuck, you know? And especially with things of faith, you know, because I had a certain perspective of how I thought things were going to work out, you know, or just life in general. And so when I felt God tell me, like, you are that atomic bomb and I'm about to light the fuse, that's when I broke, dude, because I was like nobody would know that but him, you know?
Yeah.
But I really felt it present, you know? I really felt that it came from him. It wasn't just me generating my thoughts in my head, you know? And the other part where I was telling you that I felt God tell me, like, and get ready for what I'm about to give you, man. Trust me, you know? So I was just like, "Ooh, man," I get a little bit of chills. But the reason why I mentioned the job situation was because I ended up getting a call before going to the conference, maybe a month before, telling me that they wanted to hire me for the same role, but in a different place. And so, but because it was for the state, it takes a long time to get in, like enrolled,
Yeah.
you know? And so, or onboarded. And so I knew going to the conference that they were going to call me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to make that move, but I was going to make it anyways because I needed the money, you know?
Yeah.
And so a lot happened, dude, in the background that I'm not going to share because of time right now, but where at the end of the day, it was just plain and obvious that I wasn't supposed to walk through that door, you know? So I called the lady, the HR lady, dude. Once I knew, I called the lady in HR and I was like, hey, man, I just want to thank you for the opportunity because she called me, so I answered, and I said, but I just got some instructions. You know, I got there's a different plan for me. You know,
Yeah.
I was like, I don't know if you, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh, I know what you're talking about. She's like, and she's like, Mr. Real, because you know they call you by your last name.
Yeah.
She's like, you know what? Don't you worry about it. Here's my number. If you ever need a job, just give me a call, man.
Yeah.
I was like, thank you so much, man. So, but all that to say, just before that, I remember like after one speaker, right before the guy and all that happened, there was another speaker, and I knew I had to go downstairs and make the call to HR because they had already been calling me and leaving messages. I didn't want to keep them waiting.
Yeah.
My wife knew that, but she hadn't told me that day they called her in the morning. So actually, that's what that was. So they had called her and left a message for her. Why her? I don't know because I didn't give her number. I gave my number.
Yeah.
And what she was telling me in the car later was that she knew that she just felt like she shouldn't tell me until later, you know, like after we went through the first day.
Yeah.
And so the second day is when I'm walking downstairs because she had already told me that. And then I knew I needed to call because you can't have HR just kind of calling you. It looks bad, you know?
Yeah.
So I was walking down to make the call, dude. Long story short, dude, as I get down, I pray and I'm like, God, if you want me to not take this job, then have my wife tell me something right now. Like, don't go or whatever.
Yeah.
I kind of wait for a second, you know, and you know, a few minutes go by, she doesn't say anything. I'm like, okay, cool. In this break, I'm gonna go down, you know. So I go down. As soon as I open the door from the church to the outside, she stays there. I grab my phone and it vibrates because I had it on vibrate. And I look down and it's my wife, and she's texting me like, "Come back," you know. And so
wow.
I was like, okay, I'll take that as a sign. So then I went back. I didn't make the phone call. I go in, and then that's when that happens. You know, the moment that I had. And then we leave the session to go to lunch. And as we're going to lunch, I really felt God telling me, like, dude, go to vacation with your kids, be present. Sell your house, because I was thinking like if I should sell my house or not. But the selling my house part, I didn't feel it like it was a for sure thing. Like, you should sell your house. I just felt it like, if you want to sell your house, go for it. But the last part, that's the part that got me. And then I just felt God tell me, like, and get ready for what I'm about to give you. Like, that's the key. Get ready for what I'm about to give you. And so I took that as like the sign to not take the job. But how do you tell your wife that? You know what I'm saying? Like,
yeah.
And so we get to the restaurant, and I just kind of asked her. I went to the restroom before I had a conversation with her. And in the restroom, I felt the impression even more.
Wow.
So, but I felt it in a different way. I felt like God telling me, like, bro, this is between you and me. I'm telling you right now, like, this is loud and clear, you know?
Yeah.
Not that he didn't want me to consult my wife, of course, but like I really felt it came from him, and it was like a mano a mano, so to speak, you know?
For sure.
And so, anyways, dude, that was a huge, long story, but fast forward to today, dude, things transpired after that I really can't explain, dude. I just shared with you earlier that we're starting this new business. God put a person in my life, in my family's life, dude, that just kind of believed in us and what we're doing, in our vision. And he was like, dude, I want to support it. And and not only am I going to support it, he's like, but I know this is going to work. And he was like, and we're going to grow. And so I was like, wow. And dude, I'm in a position right now, about to start a new business. I'm financially, maybe as a person, my leadership skills, maybe not ready for me to do it on my own, but God is doing it, and he's placing the right people there.
Yeah.
And how it's all happened and how it's transpired to this moment has just blown my mind, you know? And so looking back, I go, man, that's maybe what God was trying to say. Get ready for what I'm about to give you.
That's right.
And it's definitely going to change our life, because there's a vision there and stuff like that. But all that to say to what you were saying, dude, like, I felt that day like, man, maybe I just need to hone into listening to God's voice a little more, dude.
Yeah.
Forgive me for my winded story.
No,
dude.
that's so good, bro. I love the details. I love them. Because really the story isn't the story without the details.
Yes.
Right? How I felt and what happened then and what happened now and the feeling I had and these things that transpired. I mean, that's what makes the story the story,
Yeah.
which I love it.
Dude, let's transition to what you guys are doing now, dude. So tell the audience what you guys are doing, and man, give us the details.
It's pretty awesome. So I feel like what you just did is a great segue to the school. It's called the School of Purpose. So our desire is to help people find their purpose in God. You know, I think the last statistic that was run by Family Life Matters was that about 60% of Christians don't know what their purpose is. That's a lot of people to not walk around knowing their purpose. And so that just supported what we've heard from people all our lives. And this is what I found. I found that when people feel like they're close to God, the closer they are to God, the closer they are to their purpose. Because you cannot find God and not find who you are. There's the two most important things about people, and I believe this today, is what you believe about God and what you believe about yourself. If you have these two answers, you know your purpose. And so why we do the school is we do activations. I call those activations what the guy did with you guys at the paper. So we teach a school that's experiential. It's not just theological. It's not just Bible college. We teach the Bible, but we also activate you immediately in what we teach. So our goal, first of all, is to get you grounded, to let you know you can hear from God every day of your life. And we teach people how to hone in on their relationship with God, and also hone in and stop doubting that they're hearing God. When we get you into that realm, now you can not just hear God for you, now you can hear God for your family. Now you can hear God for people that are around you. I mean, how cool is it when you can go into a grocery store and you're going through a grocery store, you're thinking you're getting milk, bread, and cheese, right? And you're walking in there and you walk past somebody, and immediately as you walk past them, in the still small voice in your mind, you hear a thing like, they're depressed, they need encouragement. And normally you'd be like, oh, that's a weird thought to have, and I walk away. But when you hear God enough, it's not just what you hear, it's now obedience to what you hear. What do I do with what you told me? So that person that you don't know, you're going there to get milk, bread, and cheese. That person is walking through there depressed and unencouraged through life. You don't know what the next thing is going to bring them. And then you tell them and you stop them in place and say, hey, I don't know what you believe in, but I just really feel like God wanted me to encourage you and tell you that, you know, it's okay that whatever you're feeling right now, whether it's depression, that He's with you. And all of a sudden, something happens to that person. They're maybe for the first time feeling God loves me. God sees me so much that He put somebody in my path to tell me what I was feeling, so that He says that I'm not alone. And these are the kind of encounters that Judy and I have all the time. And these are the kind of encounters that we help people get to, because nobody should walk through life without having the voice of God prevalent in their lives. And so we teach them how to hear the voice of God. We teach them biblically sound things. And then we teach them how to operate in whatever they feel they're called to do. And then we throw in leadership. We throw in discernment. We throw in how to go after purpose and dreams. We bring in, I would call them world-renowned type of teachers from different places that come in with specialties to teach them things. So the goal is really just get people on their purpose. It's an experiential school to help them kind of cultivate them. I say we prepare Christians to do what church can't do. Church is to gather as a community to worship God, not necessarily to teach you these kind of things. You can't teach it on a Sunday. It's just too much.
Right.
But if we can come in and partner with churches, prepare their people, and then send them back to the churches, there's going to be some really equipped churches, some really equipped families. We had 3 separate families that they have older children, but they went through the whole family went through it together. One family had 5 kids, two parents. The youngest was 16. The oldest was like 29. They went through it all together, changed the trajectory of their family. Like impacting things, impacting their high school, impacting their college, impacting their careers. I mean, it's doing things for people that we could never imagine. And we do this on a hybrid basis. So we meet once a week. We do this cool pattern where we do, because we're all working adults, these are all working adults. So they meet once a week for 4 weeks. We do like 6:30 to 9:30. So it's like an intensive. So we do 4 weeks in a row, and then we get 2 weeks off, and then 4 weeks in a row. So each 4 weeks is a unit, 5 units. You graduate the first year. Now the second year, we're launching for the first time this year, and those are people that finish the first year, but they have a specific feeling like they're called to start a ministry, not necessarily a church, but like a ministry. You could be like, hey, I started a fitness ministry. I started a cooking ministry. I feel like I need to travel places and around the world and be an evangelist, whatever the case is. So we train them a little bit deeper in how to build the parameters of ministry to prepare them to do what they feel called to do in ministry. And we get them mentored with multiple pastors. So these pastors are from different churches and different backgrounds, but I've identified them as specialists in a certain area, and they get the best of the best for them.
That's so cool, man.
Yeah. It's very unique. You're probably not going to find it anywhere else in the world because God put it on our heart to do it and then to duplicate it. You know, our goal would be, I'm just going to throw it out there because I feel it in my heart, the next 5 years to be in 5 different countries.
Dude, tell the audience where they can find you guys.
Yeah, so we have a website. It's called schoolofpurposeaz.com. We're also on social media under School of Purpose. You can also reach out to me and Joey Salinas on Instagram. We have quite a bit of avenues, quite a bit of information. So we'd love for you to stay connected in that way.
Awesome, dude. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Dude. Hey, I want to ask you one more question before we segue into just incredible story that you have for us, dude, of a personal experience that you went through, dude, that I'm sure rocked your world, man.
Yeah.
But before we get into that, dude, so sometimes I'll ask my guests, like, dude, have you guys ever had, like, what's your craziest paranormal story, you know? But today, I don't want to talk about necessarily the paranormal, but like the what's the word I'm looking for, dude? It's not paranormal, but what's the word that we use in the faith realm, dude?
Like demonic?
No. Not demonic, because I don't want to talk about that, but it's the supernatural.
Supernatural.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's been your craziest supernatural experience, bro, that you've had, whether it be in ministry or, you know, in business or like, you know, just in life in general, dude, but that one experience that you're like, dude, I can tell you right now because it's the first thing that pops into my mind.
Yeah, I mean, I've had one for myself, which we're going to cover in a little bit. That personally happened to me, but we had somebody that attended our church in Surprise, and I've had several of these. So trying to pick one is like a really cool thing to say. You can had a lot of these experiences.
Hey, real quick,
yeah.
Before you say it, it doesn't necessarily have to fit in the realm of like a demon or something like that. More in the sense of like just supernatural. I mean, obviously it could be like, you know, there was a liberation or whatever, but like just, do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, cool, for sure. Yeah, so we had this guy that attended our church, and really hardworking guy, owned a roofing company, got diagnosed with stage 3 brain cancer. Got really bad migraines, got sick really fast, progressed. They said, well, it's probably going to progress to stage 4. It's kind of like the verge of stage 4 and stage 3, stage 4. And he was their sole income maker in their house too. And, you know, with chemo and radiation and surgery and all those kind of things that kind of can come into play, you know, he was going through a long journey. They gave him a long journey layout of over a couple of years just to kind of survive. I mean, basically in that realm, you get a lot of death sentence type of stuff. But he said, well, you know, he wasn't really involved. He was involved in church. His wife was more involved in church than he was. He kind of attended most of the time, but wasn't really involved. But he's like, you know what? I'm going to go up for prayer. I feel like I need a prayer. And so we prayed for him. I felt in the moment that I laid hands on him, I feel like this same time next year, you're going to be cancer free and you're not going to experience the full amount of process that they want you to go through. Needless to say, 3 months down the road, he only went through 1 chemo cycle. They didn't even get to the radiation, but they needed to do a PET scan to make sure to see if the cancer didn't grow. When they went to do the PET scan, the cancer was gone. Stage 3 cancer to no cancer. Now, they couldn't give him a remission until you're 1 year out of cancer stage. So the year time frame when I told him a year from now was really the year the time frame that he needed to bypass to be able for them to say you're not just cancer free, but you're in remission. And so that year passed, and he came back to tell us we were already not pastoring there anymore. He came back to tell us, "Hey, I got my thing." Showed us paper, I am cancer free. Been cancer free for 9 months already at that point. So that's like a really cool supernatural experience and encounter.
Yeah. What a story, dude.
Yeah.
What a story, dude. Right on, dude. And I know you're gonna share the personal one right now, but before we get into that, anything more like, I guess, personal too, or maybe like a feeling or an impression you felt about somebody, and like you approach that person and you're like, oh man, it was what I felt, you know?
Oh yeah, for
Obviously
sure.
that one.
Yeah, there's lots of those. Let me see. I'm going to try to give you a more recent one, because so this is about 3 months ago. I encountered a guy. We were at the car dealership. I was getting work done on my car.
Yeah.
And he was telling me about it. I was like, just chit chat. Like, oh, I'm gonna get married. And he's like, I'm gonna go get married in Nashville because my wife's family, like my fiance's family's in Nashville. And I was like, oh, my daughter just moved back from Nashville. And immediately after he was talking, I felt in my spirit, the Lord says that he had a great loss, like in his family. Like I felt like it was like a kid, but God's redeeming it. And he's getting something that he felt like he lost. And I said, I don't know, man, this might be really weird, but I feel like I have to say it to you. I feel like you went through an experience of loss, but as you're going through this marriage or this relationship, you're actually getting something that you felt you lost. And he just started crying at his seat. Just melted.
No way. Dude.
And I was like, man, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to touch any triggers. And he's like, no, I lost a son. He was 2 years old when he passed away. He had a weird disease in his blood. He started being born with a hole in his heart, really deformed heart, went through a lot of heart surgeries, procedures. They said he would never make it after a year. He made it to 2 years. He passed away. He said, but the lady that I'm marrying, she has a son that is exactly going to be the same age that my son would be by 1 month to the day that my son is. And he doesn't have a father. He's never had the father in his life. So he's going to be 5 years old. So that happened to his son 3 years ago. He's marrying a wife that's now the son's 5 years old. And he feels like that was his opportunity to be the father that he was always supposed to be. But he felt like it got robbed from him in one season, but God blessed it with him in the next season. And so like for me, those are like God moments. Like there's no way for me to know that.
Right.
There's no way for me to be able to like Google search him really quickly or, kind of come up with that stuff. It was that moment that it was like the Lord told it to me. And we teach this in school, like quick obedience. The longer you take to diagnose your thoughts, the longer you convince yourself out of them. And so it's about quick obedience. I heard something. Let me write it down real quick if I don't have the right moment to share it with them. I got to be quick to the obedience to the word that I heard. And then I got to act on it fast. And sometimes we don't have all the words, but when we start to get it out, God gives us the words as we're saying the words. And so, I'm giving those words and sharing that stuff. And it's just happening right before my eyes. And he, like we said earlier with the example of the grocery store thing, he, for the first time or maybe in a long time, feels like God does see me. God does know me. Maybe he didn't even look at it from that perspective yet, that now he's gaining a son that he lost. So,
bro, let me ask you a question that just kind of popped in my head right now, dude. Has there ever been a moment where you feel something like that? You feel the voice of God, dude. You feel an impression, and because maybe it was so grandiose that you're like, nah, you second guess it,
of course,
and you dissected your thoughts, and then you walked away and you felt like, crap, man, like I just missed an opportunity because
all the time.
Like, is there one in particular that you remember where you're like, man, this is what I felt and I didn't do it because of this reason?
Yeah. I felt like, and this is probably because it was somebody I knew. I didn't know them like all the details a lot, but I know them acquaintance wise.
Right.
And I really felt like God wanted me to just talk a little bit about some of their history with their job and some of the stuff that might have happened with their job. And it was very detailed. I felt like what God was sharing with me. And I was like, I'm not going to share that with them. They're going to think like I looked them up because I know them. And I don't really know that stuff, but I just, my fear is always like, I don't want them to think it's me. I want them to know it's God.
Right.
And so I feel like I missed that moment and they left. And immediately I felt like, why didn't I share it?
Mm.
You know? And so what I do now, because those are going to happen, is I pause and I pray and I ask God, I know I didn't share this with that person, but please help me help them receive that word.
Mm.
Is there another way for me to do it? So I felt like the easy answer was yes. So I went back and they're acquaintance where I know them, but I don't even have their number. So I looked them up on social media. I wrote them the word out in social media the next day and told them, hey, I felt this when we saw each other the other day and I didn't share it. I'm so sorry. I don't know if it means anything to you. And they wrote back like tears. Thank you so much. I needed to hear that. It's exactly what I've been asking God.
Mm.
And so you can miss the moment and pray and God will still deliver his message somehow in some way.
Mm.
Or if you have an opportunity to deliver it in an alternate method, there's always a way to do it, even if you miss the grandiose moment.
That's good. That's good. Hey,
Yeah.
so I'm sure this will segue into that, and you'll probably share that because it's part of your story. But have you ever witnessed? I'm gonna ask you like a deeper question now. Like,
Yeah.
have you ever witnessed something supernatural, like that you saw or that you felt? Maybe like you were in a place, a church, a room, I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe you were seeing somebody. God was giving you some information. You saw somebody like something. Maybe a vision or something like that.
Oh
or,
yeah. So we talk about there's dreams. You can get dreams, what I call prophetic dreams, where you're at night, you're dreaming about something and then it happens or it's going to happen or it's crazy. Like the details that you get in those dreams about somebody else or about yourself, about your family.
Mm.
But there's also open-eyed visions. So this is like, I can be talking to you like right now, and let's just say almost like a movie scene happens behind you.
Mm.
And I kind of see stuff that's occurring. That's also a way that God speaks. Right. Or it could be a closed-eyed vision. That means like I might be praying and with my eyes closed and almost like God takes me into a dream, but I'm awake. My eyes are closed. And that would be a closed-eyed vision. And so these are all talked about in the Bible. These are all biblical things that happen to believers and still happen today. I feel like a lot of us discount visions as daydreams.
Mm.
Like, I had a daydream. I don't know why I thought about that, and it happens and it's real.
Mm.
Or we discount a dream that we had, like, oh, that's a pizza dream. I ate pizza too late. Now I had a weird dream, But God speaks to us in whatever method he needs to get our attention. Jeremiah in the Bible, you go back and read all the books of the prophets, and each prophet sees differently or hears differently. So Jeremiah was a seeing prophet. That means like he spoke to Jeremiah by what he showed him in visions. And so like in Jeremiah chapter 1, God talks to Jeremiah and he's like, Jeremiah, what do you see? And Jeremiah has a moment where he closes his eyes and he sees a vision of a tree and an olive tree pointing in a certain direction, leaning. And he tells God, this is what I saw. And God says, you've seen well. Now what do you see? And then the detail enhances of what he sees. Now there's a river flowing and there's other things around it. And he said, great, you've seen well. This is what this means. So there are so many ways in the Bible that God uses people, he speaks to people through many different ways. Most rare is an audible voice from God, meaning I audibly hear you outside like I can hear you in my headphones. That is actually probably more rare than a vision, than a dream, or than him speaking to you in your heart or in your mind.
You know, it's something interesting fact, dude.
Yeah.
That I want to touch on what you just talked about right now, dude. I read this book called Imagine Heaven. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I've never read it, but I know what book you're talking about.
Dude,
Yes.
you need to read it. They have it on Audible, dude.
Yeah.
Just play that sucker, dude. You're not gonna want to hit stop, dude.
Come on.
It's one of those books. It's these people who have experienced NDEs, near-death experiences, and they have experienced these beautiful encounters, right, with the Lord and stuff like that, Jesus and God. And the cool thing is that in that book, there's testimonies not only of believers but of non-believers. And I like the language the non-believers use, and without getting too much into the details, because I'm veering from the point, is like they would call Jesus like the beam of light, so much brighter than the sun, yet you can gaze upon him, which was incredible.
Good.
And the Bible calls him like the morning star, and that he is a light and stuff like that. But all that to say, dude, that in that book, the common denominator, one of the many common denominators, the common thread was that when you're there in that other realm, you don't really speak audibly, like you speak telepathically. You know? And they use the word telepathically because that's a human word. But again, like the things that they experienced there, they couldn't even put into human words because it's not possible, right? But the way that they communicated was like for example, one of the people would say like, or one of the stories was like, yeah, like when he communicated to me, I just knew what he was thinking, and there was no confusion in heaven because you knew exactly what he was saying.
That's right.
And like the intent behind, so communication was even greater. You know,
Yeah.
it wasn't just like I said this. Well, that person could have interpreted it this way or that way. No, there was none of that. It was like I know what he means.
Yeah.
Because I just know it. Like it
That's
was
right.
like instant, you know.
That's right.
And so to the point that you just made right now, it just kind of popped into my head. I think maybe what if like communication is like the lesser version of communication for God? You know what I'm
It
saying?
absolutely is. It is, right?
I just thought about that, dude.
Because you can factor it into so many different things, vocally, verbally, right? Oh, I heard that. Was that God or not God? You know,
Right.
But when you hear it inside, it is very clear.
That's like the direct link, dude.
It is, man. It's I call it psychovocally. It's your psychological voice, right?
Dude, I had never thought about that. It just
Yeah.
up until this moment, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I think that was like a God nugget.
Yeah,
You
that's
know what I'm
right.
saying?
Come on, I love it. I love it. That's so
Dude,
good.
what if audible communication is like the lowest form of communication that God uses? 'Cause for us, that's a thing. But
That's
in His
right.
realm, maybe that's like, I don't need that thing, baby.
That's
you
right.
know what I'm saying?
That's
Woo!
Come on, come on.
Dude, all right, man. I think we've reached the point, dude, where oh, and speaking of that book, I'm gonna ask you some questions.
Yeah, yeah.
But anyways, let's get into your story, dude.
Yeah.
You had something very crazy happen to you physically, you know,
Yeah.
medically, dude. And like you said, your near death experience, man. And so please share as much as you want. Share the deets.
Yeah.
You know. And then we'll go from there, dude. But
Yeah.
but tell us about that, man.
Absolutely. I'd love to. I'll give it to you chronologically a little bit so that you can kind of paint the picture, in other words, of what's happened. So last June-ish, I started, not the June that just passed, but the June 2024 June. I started to get some like weird like sinuses. Like I was just like, and I don't get allergies, bro. Don't get seasonal allergies. Never struggled. Thank God. I've never struggled with that my whole life. Maybe as being born and raised Phoenician. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
But never struggled with them. Never had to take medication for that stuff. You know, I've had cold and flus, but never allergies like that. So I started getting this weird like allergies, almost like runny nose and congestion, weird stuff. And it went on for several weeks. I tried every over-the-counter medication you can imagine. Everything that you put in your nose, you take in your mouth, you drink, insert everything. I even got a shot, whatever. When I got an allergy test, they poked everything on my arms. They're like, "You're not allergic to anything." Like those kind of things happened, right? And then about a month later, started in July, I woke up one morning with excruciating pain in my feet. Like I felt like I was standing on glass. Couldn't walk. It's more than just like, hey, I've been sitting down for a while and like your feet hurt a little bit until you get them warmed up. It was like the excruciating stepping on glass pain for hours. And it was unbearable. I had to like crawl to the restroom every morning. Like,
Get
so I was
out,
just
dude.
dealing with this, not knowing what it is. Went to a foot doctor, got shots in my sole of my feet. They thought it was plantar fasciitis. They thought it was heel spurs. They did all these x-rays and tests, gave me the most painful, don't ever get shots in your heels. Like those are the most painful thing you can get. Got those done. Didn't help. And I was living off of Advil, like 3, 4, 5 times a day, taking 1,000 milligrams at a time.
Get out.
And just to function, bro. And I'm still limping around, walking, you know, and I'm at, you know, working for a ministry at that time on my feet for 9 hours on Sundays, 4 services. You know, all that stuff's happening. So months go by of that. Then in August, beginning about the 7 days into August, I start to get like what I feel like is a flu. Meanwhile, while I'm getting the pain in my feet too, I'm waking up one day and my whole hand is swollen.
Get out.
And I'm like, can't squeeze my hand like more than like if my hand was like around a softball.
Right.
And then the next day I wake up and my shoulder's frozen. Like I can't move my shoulder. And so this is like traveling through my body like every couple of days in a different spot while my feet are still in excruciating pain. And so it's just, I'm going through crazy things, going to see specialists. Nobody knows anything that's going on. So it hits, 7 or 8 days into August, I get like what I feel like is like a flu, no fever, but just like coughing and congestion. And it's like the allergies, but it's a cold. It feels like a cold. And then it goes for a week. It goes for 10 days. It starts getting worse and worse and worse and worse. Till about, I want to say about August 20th, I start to feel short of breath. More than normal. I have stairs just like you do in your house. And I'm like, man, I'm out of breath. It's not like just panda asthma, you know?
Right.
It's like abnormal. And that's weird. And then, I get about the 25th and I start coughing up blood. Like I'm coughing, but I'm coughing up blood. And I start testing my oxygen. I have like an oximeter and I put it on my finger and it's like 91. I'm like, that's pretty low, but it's probably because I'm sick and congested. And I can't sleep, bro. I don't sleep for like 7 days like in a row. Like I'm not sleeping in my bed. I'm sleeping in my like loft couch area, sitting up. It's the only way I can kind of get a little bit of rest. I was about the 28th. I couldn't sleep at all. I literally checked my oximeter and I had 85.
Get out, dude.
Which is like dangerously low.
Right.
Super dangerously low. And I can't explain it to anybody else, but I felt the spirit of death. I felt like I am going to go to sleep and not wake up. And at 3 a.m, I pull out my phone and I start to write my last will and testament.
No way, dude.
Because I'm believing like I'm probably not going to wake up and I need my wife to know what to do with my body, with my funeral, passwords of stuff. So I write it all out. I pin it to the top of my notes. Judy and I were doing lives every week. We call them prophetic prayer lives on Instagram and Facebook. And I tell her I can't do it. It's Wednesday. The next day is Wednesday. I said, I can't do it. I'm super sick. I survived the night, but I thought I was going to die. I go outside. She's like encouraging me to go outside and go outside for a walk. And then I come inside and I sit at the table with her. This is like the 29th of August now. Sitting at the table with her. And you're talking about visions. I have an open-eyed vision. So I'm looking at her having a conversation, but then all of a sudden, it's like a movie in front of my face. And it's me standing on a stage talking to 1,000 people. And remember, the last time I thought I was going to die.
Right.
And in that vision, I'm on a microphone and I'm testifying to people. I was really sick for a long time, but God saved me. The vision goes away. My wife's like, what happened to you? Where did you go right now? It looked like you zoned out. I told her the vision. I wrote it down on my phone and I sent it to her. The next day, it was August 30th. I woke up, my oxygen was at 83.
No way, dude.
We're going to get a haircut. My wife's going to get a haircut. I drive with her. She's like, we need to go to the hospital. I'm like, just go get your haircut. We'll go look, there's an urgent care across the street. We're in Scottsdale. Urgent care across the street. I was like, I'll go to the urgent care while you're there. Go there. They text my oxygen. They're like, we have to call the ambulance. Like, we can't treat you in urgent care. Like, you could pass out any moment. And I was like, no, my wife's here. She'll drive me. It's fine. They make me sign a paperwork. They put me on oxygen. They're like, Lisa, let's put you on oxygen so you can get to the hospital. Okay, we can't, you could refuse the ambulance, but we can't let you walk out like this. So I signed a paper. I'm like, my wife will take me. My wife drives me. We drop my son off because he was with us. We drop him off at our house. We're in East Mesa. There's this hospital. They're called Arizona General Hospital. And it's East Mesa. And I was like, here, we'll just drop me off here. I would drop Aiden off and bring me back to that hospital. She's like, that's like a small hospital. You sure want to go to? I was like, they have a helicopter pad. I'm sure they're fine. My theory is like, they got a helicopter pad. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
I go in there. They run all my vitals, all my tests. And the doctor comes to me several hours later. And Judy had to leave for something really quick and come back. But while she was gone, it's like 10:30 at night. The doctor comes in finally. He had me on like this turbo blast of oxygen. It's not like the little one. It's like this big tube and it's like 25%, 25 pounds of oxygen. Normally they give you like 4%. And it's like blowing hardcore in me. And he's like, all right, I got bad news for you. And I'm like, great. Like nobody wants to hear bad news in the hospital, you know?
Right.
And they're like, well, so your lungs are filled with blood. And your oxygen, although it says 94 because we have you on oxygen, your lungs are going to stop working. Your lungs, if they stop working, it doesn't matter how much oxygen comes in, because they still have to your lungs still have to move.
Right.
And so the only thing we can do is intubate you and put you on a ventilator. Boom! My mind flashes back to 2020, COVID. All the people that we hear about, we all had family members that have went through that. People that go on a ventilator, they don't come off. They go in the hospital on a ventilator, they die. And without COVID, it was like, I think it's like 75% death rate. Because you don't know that your lungs will start moving on their own again. They don't, if your lungs can't function on their own, you can't function.
Right.
And so I'm like, okay, I felt the presence of God, like just calm me down in a moment of what could have been panic. And I said, okay, we're not doing anything until my wife gets back. She gets back about 15, 20 minutes later. I said, let me tell her, because I don't need my wife to panic.
Right.
I said, hey, this is the news. This is what they're going to have to do. Here's my phone. This is everything you need to know. They're going to put me on a ventilator. And they can't treat me here. They have to transport me because that hospital, they're transporting me to a respiratory specialist, which was Chandler Regional Hospital at that time, was the expert. So they take me to a back room. They intubate me, put me to sleep. I don't know how all that happened, transpired. It's all on video. You guys ever want to check it out, go to my Instagram. My wife put a story on the whole thing process. It's pretty awesome. So they intubate me. They end up having to air vac me from the hospital. They couldn't do an ambulance because I would have died.
Get out, dude.
In transport. They said, we basically got to get him to the hospital in 20 minutes. So they air vac'd me after they intubated me. I don't know. I don't have these details. If they resuscitate me or anything on the air flight, I don't know. They get me to the hospital.
So you pass out during this time?
Oh, I'm already in ventilator. I'm already intubated. They're pumping everything by hand on an air vac.
Dude, okay. So time out. So they tell you that, you tell your wife. After you tell her that, you just start like to doze off, or
no? Then they take me back to a room. They start to put you to sleep. They put fentanyl in your system.
Yeah,
and then they put you with sleeping medication because then they, nobody will be able to stand getting something thrown down their throat.
Right.
So they put me to sleep. I conk out. They're like, on count to 10, and it gets a 3, and you're out. I don't remember anything until waking up, but I can kind of give the story based on what my wife's told me. So they air vac me. I'm there at regional hospital. One of the doctors comes in at like 2 a.m. and tells Judy kind of general stuff, what they're doing. The real doctor comes in the morning and tells her, hey, so do you have family that's out of town? And she's like, yeah, my daughter lives in Nashville and her future husband. And he's like, I would have them fly down. Your husband's probably not going to make it. We're going to do everything we can, but the chances are really slim. There's a lot of damage in his lungs. There's a lot of blood in his lungs. We don't know that they'll start working. Blood leaves scar tissue. Scar tissue restricts your function. And so we don't know that they'll respond. And so every day you're on a ventilator, it's as if you've lost about 30 days of like function in your body. Like all your organs, everything, every day you're on a ventilator is not bad, not good. And so I'm on a ventilator. I have bad moments, high moments. What my wife does in that moment is she starts to, instead of panic, she starts to lean into God. And she's like, what do I do? And so she started writing scriptures, writing prophecies, wrote down the prophecy, the vision God gave me about doing it. My whole wall was filled. You can see this on our Instagram video. My whole wall was filled from door to door, from window to window, was full of scriptures and prophecies about my life. She turned my hospital ICU room into a sanctuary. And only brought people in that were going to speak life and faith. And our church at that time held a prayer night on Sunday night. I went to the hospital Friday, got intubated pretty much Saturday at midnight. They held something for Sunday night. Over 30,000 people joined in on prayer, prayed for me. 4 days later, they take me off the intubator to test to see if I can make it. I make it. They're blown away, just beating all the things that they thought I wouldn't be able to do. And during that period of time, there was moments where my wife said that people would come and I would do things. One of the times is my daughter and one of good friends of mine, Ron Tolson, he came in and they did some worship. And she says, you were unconscious on a ventilator. And she's like, but then your arms just lifted up to worship. And she's like, there were moments where you weren't in your body or mind, but your body responded to worship and prayer. And people ask me, like, do you remember anything? Did you see God? I didn't see God. I don't have any of those moments. What I do is I can say I've felt God in those moments. I didn't see anything. I didn't hear a lot of things. But what I did is I felt God's presence. And I can't recollect days, but I can recollect moments. And so, long story short, they tell me when I wake up, they're like, all right, you have this weird autoimmune disease. We have to put you on chemotherapy. That's the only way to get it like taken care of. It's a chemotherapy called rituximab. It has 17 pages of side effects. Every single person that takes this drug through infusion has major side effects, like trembling and shaking. Some people go into seizures, very like breaking out. It happens to everything. It even says on the paperwork, 99.2% of people receive an immediate side effect. And so they have somebody, a nurse, giving you Benadryl, Tylenol, and steroids. They have me on a god-awful amount of steroids, thousands of milligrams of steroids while I'm in the hospital, along with that chemotherapy. They give it to me. I have no side effects. So they're just amazed by that. I prayed that God would put an armor around me that would keep me from these side effects. Let only the good come in, let none of the bad. And so had that encounter, got out of the hospital on day 9. They told me when I was leaving, they said, you're going to be on oxygen for 90 days and home. You're going to have to live downstairs. You can't go upstairs for probably about 90 days. Got to get you a hospital bed at home. Like all this stuff because of the damage in my lungs and my kidneys. I was in stage 3 kidney disease damage. And then also my lungs were damaged. And so they said 90 days oxygen minimum. You're probably going to have to be in, dialysis for your kidneys at some point because there's so much damages. Like there's just deathly diagnosis. Even though I made it, it's a miracle, but there's a miracle with a bunch of stuff. And I heard the doctors, but I stood and said, I hear you. Thank you. But then I just started to believe the better. I started to write down all the things I believed for. I wrote down what the doctor said, and then I wrote down what I'm believing for. After 6 days, I was off oxygen. On day 7, I was walking upstairs on my own, sleeping in my own bed. I mean, everything got defied. Everything was cut in half. Recently, within the last 2 months, I went to my kidney doctor. This has never happened before. Normally, if you're in a stage disease, you never move. You can be a healthy stage 3. I mean, I don't get worse, but it's impossible to get better.
Right.
I recently had my kidney doctor write down on my diagnosis, reversed kidney disease, medical anomaly. I have the documents. Made him a believer. My nephrologist. My lung functions at 98%. It's like as if I have no damage in my lungs.
Right.
So all of these things happen, all these diagnoses happen, and meanwhile, God shows up in supernatural ways. And then the last thing I'll share was this. I was sitting at home about day 7 or 8, and I got hit with grief. There's a thing called survivor's grief. And I've done hundreds of funerals, hundreds of homegoings or celebrations of life. And for people that have done way more for God's kingdom than me, and they passed away at different ages. And I'm like, God, why did you save me? I'm not good, perfect. I'm not a good pastor. I'm not the best husband. I'm not the best dad in the world. I fall short. Like, why did you save me and you didn't save that person? And I felt this guilt on me, bro. And I was like, I don't know why I feel this guilt. I said, God, why? Why? Hours. I just felt the grief, bro. And immediately God spoke to my heart. And he said, Joey, it was never about you. I didn't save you for you. I saved you for the 30,000 plus people that were praying for you. I needed their faith to be lifted up. I needed them to see a miracle. I needed their prayer life to be activated. I was never about you. And he led me to the scripture of Lazarus. I was on a ventilator for 4 days. Lazarus was raised from the dead on the 4th day. Hebrew tradition is after 3 days you being dead, your spirit is gone and you can't be resurrected. But Jesus broke all the rules and he resurrected Lazarus on the 4th day. And this is what he said in his prayer. This is why God pointed me here. In his prayer, Jesus said, God, raise him from the dead because these witnesses need to see it. And immediately my miracle had a purpose. My miracle wasn't because I behaved well. My miracle was because other people needed it. Immediately the grief left, and there's purpose behind me living. End of story.
Dude, what a powerful story, dude. What a powerful story and incredible, man. And here you are, dude. You know, alive and well.
There you go.
Sexier than ever.
You need to tell my wife that.
Dude, thank you for sharing that, dude. Especially that last part. That's a powerful thing that you just shared there, dude. I just read through the book of Job, dude. I literally just finished today, I think.
What?
And no joke, I wrote in my journal when I read like half of it, and then I read half of it. The first part, I opened my journal up, and you know what? I'm gonna do something special, dude. No, can you please open up my backpack right there, dude? And then just the first big, that one. I know on top. Next one right there. No. Up. Yeah, that one. You'll see a brown journal, dude. Boom, shakalaka.
There you go. That's a fancy journal.
Dude,
Look at that leather-bound journal.
Leather-bound. No, dude, I've had this for years, and I never use it because I'm not like a guy to journal, you know? But I'm not that type of guy that just likes to journal, but I know that it's a good thing, dude.
Yeah.
And I started to recently. But check this out, dude. No joke. It goes with what you just said, dude. And that's why it blessed my life, what you just said right now. Dude, so I was writing in my journal, dude, and then I get to the I always just write like what's going on in my day and stuff like that, dude. And then towards the end, I get to the spiritual growth part of the day, you know. And I just titled it that, and I wrote Job 2:10, Job 121, Job 2:10, where it says, "Shall we accept good from God and not troubles?" And then Job 121 says, "Naked I came from my mother's womb, and naked will I depart. The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. May the name of the Lord be praised." And this is literally what I wrote, dude. No matter how good we may think we are, God is good. He alone is in control and knows and has all wisdom. I wrote, what we don't have, what we have and what we don't have does not relate to our goodness, but to his being. God, good or bad, his ways are higher.
That's right.
You know? And
come on.
Dude, all that to say that I read through Job this time, and I took that very thing where God's like, bro, it's not about you, man. You know? When you said that, I was like, man, I've been feeling that in my life recently.
Come on.
And I also felt God tell me, like, whether good or bad, I'm in charge.
That's right.
And it's not your job to try to understand or make, reason of it. Just continue to lean on me. Continue to trust me.
That's right.
And when you shared that, dude, that just it struck me because, again, that's kind of like what I just, experienced right now with Joe, dude. But yeah, dude, if there's one thing that where I've landed in recent days is that very fact. And I'll share this with you just really quickly, and it kind of goes with your story. My barber, dude, has an incredible story as well. And one of personal choices that he made, but then he repented and went back, And he always tells me, like, dude, you know what? You see this right here, this barbershop, which, by the way, V's Barbershop up in our neck of the woods. Right. Check him out, my friend Laz. But he always would tell me tells me when he cuts my hair, he's like, you know what, dude, what you see here, this business, he's like, I don't deserve it, but it's all because of grace. He's like, everything I have in life is because of grace. Because if it was up to me, like if it was because of my goodness and the things that I've done, he's like, you know my story. I don't deserve none of this, but I have it because of grace.
That's right.
Dude, going back to my story of what I just shared with you, that the new business, the new venture, I went back and I told him when he was cutting my hair, I was like, bro, when it happened, you popped into my mind, and the only thing I could think of was like, dude, I don't deserve this. I'm not like financially ready to make this thing. I'm not stable, financially stable, or just prepared to make such a big leap. But it's because of grace.
Come on.
Things have been signed. We're moving forward. I can't believe it. It's because of his grace.
Come on.
Dude, thank you for sharing that, dude, because that is powerful, dude. That is powerful. And I think I recently heard too on social media some preacher or some pastor say like, or I don't know if it was that or maybe just some person, but they shared that like, that the gifts that God gives us aren't necessarily for us, but they're for others.
That's right.
And so, dude, what a powerful story, man. Let me ask you one last question, man, and maybe we can end on this note, dude. But what's your greatest takeaway, dude, from this this experience that you had, dude? For you would say, and how is that impacting your life now?
Yeah, that's really good. I think my biggest takeaway is to not waste time. If it's been important to you at any capacity of time, then it's important to do it now. I think we don't have time to wait. There's an urgency beyond what we think we have time for, what we think we are structured well to do. If it's in your hands, do something with it. I feel like, you got to hear a lot of cool things about stuff we've done or stuff I've done. But maybe the thing that people won't tell you, but I will, is before that happened, there was lots of things in my hands that I didn't do anything with. There was lots of people that God wanted me to talk to, things that he wanted me to start. And I didn't because I thought I had time to do it. But the reality is that if it's in your hands, it's your job to steward it. One of the greatest parables that Jesus talks about is the parable of the talents. And it's about him giving 3 servants 3 different amounts of talents. And he gave them each their talents according to their abilities. So God's given us things according to our ability. So if it's in our hands, he thinks we can do something with it. Even if we don't deserve it, even if we don't think we're prepared for it, if he put it in our hands, it's for us to work it. And the crazy thing is this, is that the first servant, he gave 5. That's a lot. But he came back and the servant gave him double. And he said, well done, my good and faithful servant. The next servant, he gave 2. He came back and he brought him 4. He said, well done, my good and faithful servant. But then there was a servant that he gave 1 to, and that servant grabbed what was given to him, dug it in the dirt, and hid it until this master returned and he brought him back what he originally gave him. And he says, here's what I gave to you. And he says, you're wicked. So to me, my moment takeaway is that we don't have time to dig and put the things that God put on our hands and stick them on the shelf or in the dirt. If it's in our hands, work it. Because he requires something back for what he put in your hands.
What are some things you feel that God has put in your hands?
That's a great question. So number 1, I feel like he's put in my hands the ability to teach people how to get the most out of themselves. And I feel like he's given me people to do that with. And either I didn't reach out to them or I didn't respond to them to help them. My biggest gift is the gift he gave me, which is the gift to give other people's gifts. And if I can't help them find their gifts, then I'm being disobedient. The other thing I feel like is that he's given me this somehow, and not because of education and not because of a lot of experience. I have a little bit of experience. He's given me this ability to be able to identify business things and turn them around. And I feel like the things that I'm doing in this season are more wrapped around making businesses function at the highest level they've ever functioned. And I can't do that by just doubting myself or sitting on the side. I got to just dig in. Somebody needs my help. I need to help them. I need to do it. And I feel like those are some of the things that he put in my hands that I need to do something with.
Dude, I want to ask you one last question.
Yeah.
We need to stretch a little bit, dude. And then I think we'll close out with that question, dude. And it's more out of curiosity, dude.
Yeah.
Because I know you, and obviously all the things you've shared now and stuff like that. And, we have a relationship. I don't think I've ever asked you this question. Maybe I have. But I always ask, at least people that I know that are in my general circle, so to speak.
Yeah.
I don't ask a lot of people, but I ask a few people. And the question that I ask is, hey, within the time frame that you've known me, like, what do you see in me, and what are some I guess like some gifts or talents that you see? You know? And I like to ask that question, number one, because I learned that self-awareness is good. I like to just get people's perspective.
For sure.
Because it obviously helps me. I take what people say and then I make some calculations. And just try to, just kind of hear their perspective to see, kind of gauge if I'm walking in the right path, so to speak. Not that like what people say matters and that's what I do, but just to kind of, as a feedback,
That's really good.
And so I'm gonna ask you the question, dude. In the time frame that you've known me, dude, like when you think of WIFFY, what do you think, dude? And what comes to mind, and like, what would you say are some of my gifts and some of my strengths?
Yeah, absolutely.
And before you answer that, I just want to preface it with, I don't want to make this about myself, guys, but because I honor this guy and I respect this guy, what you have to say, is important to me, dude. So
yeah, that's awesome.
no pressure.
No. I think the obvious, and this is obvious, but I'm going to give a different twist to it.
Cool.
I think your charisma is your superpower. But I believe that your charisma that you carry, that's a superpower, has not yet been applied to every area. And what I mean by that is, what makes charisma? It's excitement, exuberance, and fervor to do something. And the excitement that comes out of your voice, God wants you to use that to ignite the fires in all the folds of your life. I feel like you are a diesel engine with charisma that God wants you to finally put the pedal to the metal. And I feel like you have the ability to function in 5 spheres of influence, but 2 of them you're very scared of doing because of either the backlash or the worry of failure. And I feel like God is going to say, use your charisma and excitement to dismantle the fear or anxiety with the final 2. And it's about to happen because this business is just the tip of the iceberg. This new business is the tip of the iceberg. God's going to allow you to utilize your charisma, your excitement, your voice, your excitability, and your influence to spark a movement beyond just the business. I saw a picture of a billboard with your face on it coming into Verado. And I felt like the Lord said, and I'm going to use the Lord because I feel like now I'm prophesying to you. I feel like God is saying, WIFFY, I can make you a mayor of a town, but you can't just have a business owner mindset. If you work your business with the charisma potential that you carry, I'm going to give you the town. So the ball is in your court.
Dude, that's freaky.
Freaky? It is not even Friday. Freaky Friday.
That is crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question.
Yeah.
You tell me yes or no, but would you be willing to elaborate a little on the two fears? Because that struck me.
Yeah.
That resonated with me.
Yeah. Well, I feel like one of the fears is a radio station. I feel like there's a media. I know podcasts and social media is a media avenue, but it's not the full media avenue. I feel like there are things that you need to, and I feel like there's a partnership with that and your events. I feel like there needs to be a marriage between your media and your events that brings liveliness to it. So I believe that one of those avenues is that. The other avenue is the actual, it's funny, that's your substitute teaching. But I feel like one of the spheres that you're called to is education. I feel like you have a plan or even an idea of a school or something that you feel kids should know or learn, or a different way of doing things. Stuff you've learned from your own kids that you're like, I can identify why my kids learn differently, and why the school system fails them. And I feel like God's put inside of you the blueprint for what an educational system would look like. And I believe it starts in Verrado. I believe that you can change the infrastructure of education here, and it become a blueprint for different parts of the valley.
That's interesting, dude.
You've learned a lot while you've been substituting.
I have, dude. I have learned a lot.
You've seen the failures. You've seen the gaps. You've seen the issues. You diagnose by being there. And this is a God-ordained thing. You didn't substitute because just money. God's placed you there because he's trying to give you a vein of education in your soul.
Interesting, dude. Never saw it that way, but that makes total sense. And you hit the nail on the head that, yeah, I didn't just like show up there. That was something God put there, dude. But let me ask you again. I guess better yet, the question was like, you said that you see me having two fears, and that
the fears,
fears, and that resonated with me, dude.
Yeah.
Because I can tell you right now that is the case. But, But what'd you feel in that?
Well, one of the fears I believe is not being taken seriously. I feel like almost like your superpower of your charisma is also a fear that that's your kryptonite when it comes to being taken seriously. And so I feel like that's one of the fears. The other fear is failing your family. Because you've seen a business you got rid of, not that that was a failure, because it was a choice. It was you could make money. You were making money off it.
Right.
It was more of a decision. There is a fear of, if I take the risk, will I fall? But I feel like,
bro.
Yeah.
We gotta we gotta show the audience right now. Dude.
Okay.
So, because I know they're listening, they're probably thinking, "Come on."
You can't make this stuff up, bro, right?
Being super vulnerable right now. Right?
Okay, be vulnerable.
Bro, check this out. 10-7, dude. I just wrote this yesterday, dude.
This is awesome.
Check this out. I'm going to read it to you, dude.
Please.
It says, I wrote a few things at the beginning, but then towards the end, towards the middle, it says, I put my trust in the Lord. God is my provider. Lord, help me become the provider that I know that I should be. I don't want my wife to have to work. There was a season where she didn't work. Now she's been working, you know. I want her to be able to stay home and stay with the kids and the family if that's what she wants, you know. And then check this out. Better yet, help me to provide for my family. And I also wrote, including my parents, you know. And the reason why I wrote that, dude, because one of my fears in recent days has been that. I'm like, God, what's wrong with me, dude? You know? Getting teary-eyed, dude.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've tried so many things, dude, you know? And I'm like, God, you call me to be the provider, man, you know? Help me to be that.
Yeah.
And in this season where I've been leaning on my wife, dude, you know, I'm still working and stuff like that, but I'm not providing like I used to, you know?
Yeah.
And then with some of these business ventures, like the business for the events, like we make the money, dude. As it comes, it goes because we invest money, you know?
For sure.
And so I just feel like I've been living on the edge, dude. And so I'm tired of living on the edge, you know? And so so that was one of those for sure.
Yeah. He's conquering it. And I feel like your breakthrough is going to come when you realize that God won't allow you to fail.
Mm. Mm.
Risk it for the biscuit, brother.
Risk it for the biscuit, bro.
He's got them for you. There's plenty of biscuits. It's just, I love my wife says it this way. She says, your greatest reward is at your greatest risk.
Dude, let me share something real quick, dude. So we get to the point where we have to sign the contract, right?
Mm-hmm.
And not only in this contract, for some reason, they incorporated our spouses.
Wow.
And I don't know how I felt about that at the beginning, right? But anyways, they just want to secure the first 3 years. After the first 3 years, it falls on the LLC.
Yeah.
But I'll have to say that it got to my part, so I signed. But right before I signed, we prayed. I told my wife, let's pray. So I prayed.
Mm.
And then when it got to her part to sign, I was like, all right, now you pray, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Her prayer, no joke, dude, was like, gosh, just help my husband grow some balls right now.
I love it.
Dude, that was her prayer,
I love
literally, dude. And
Yeah.
I just started cracking up, dude, because I knew exactly what she meant.
That's right.
Like what you just said right now.
Yeah.
Dude, risk it for the biscuit.
That's
You're
right.
seeing how God is opening the doors. Like, are you kidding me right now? You're doubting.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be doubting, dude. Just walk in faith. He's making it happen, dog. You know?
I'll leave you this last thought. I feel like it's super important. It goes with what you're saying. I teach this to people, business people, and people in general, but mostly when it comes to like business people. And I said, especially business people with faith, because I feel like they a lot of times are a little bit more reserved because of their fear of losing everything, you know, and they're a little bit more hesitant. And I said, you know, we're over there and we're asking God for the green light and the miracle and the sign and the wonder and the skies to part and then God to ride in the clouds, like, do this. But the reality is that what if we stopped asking God for a green light and instead we approach everything as a green light and just tell God to stop us when he wants us to? Your approach is different. When you look at the scene of your professional life and your life in general as a series of green lights, you can drive without hesitation. You will stop when the red hits. But if you sit at a light and wait for it to turn green and just, it's already been green for you forever, but you're waiting just for it to turn like flashing green, different color green, the green that I really want to see, you wait longer than you're supposed to. So I feel like before you and before the people listening is, what if for one moment you just realize that you have a series of green lights, and instead of waiting for God to give you the green light, how about you just go forward and ask God to show you the red light?
I like that, dude.
Yeah.
I like that. Thank you very much for saying that, dude. And that resonates with me because I feel that that's the way I operate, dude. You know, like, I mean, not that I'm putting that into practice right now, obviously, but what I'm saying is I feel that would be more in my nature to do than rather just to wait. You know?
For sure.
Hey, I just want to ask you one last question. I know I keep saying that, dude, but this is
It's good. This is good.
It's good, dude. I promise this is the
This
last
is session 15 and 16.
dude, it's more than a question.
Yeah.
Is a statement, dude.
Yeah.
But when you mentioned the two fears, that struck me.
Yeah.
One of those fears was dead on.
Yeah.
The provision, and then the other one is, and I just kind of want to ask you, but also kind of like make the statement because I want your thoughts on that too.
Yeah.
But you know, with current events happening the way the world is and stuff like that, dude. One of my fears, and I don't even know if I should say it, you know, publicly, I guess, but
Yeah, it's fine. It's the WIFFY Real Show.
yeah, let's keep it real, baby.
Let's keep it real.
Is which, by the way, you hit the other one in the head too, because I've talked to Noah about that, the imposter syndrome, dude. You know, and it's funny that you specifically mentioned my charisma, dude, because you're the second person in my life who's kind of made a comment about that, specifically in that way. Before, when I used to do music and stuff like that, I went on this little tour, and my tour manager, I remember we were sitting at an Applebee's, bro. Either Applebee's or Chili's, I don't remember, but it was one of those two.
Yeah.
And it was just me and her, and we were discussing like what had been happening on tour, what was going to happen, and things like that. And I remember her very specifically. She told me, she's like, "Hey, I just want to tell you something right now." She's like, "You know what? You're one of those guys that you say a lot of things, and you believe big, and she's like, and you do those things, But I feel like sometimes people don't take you seriously because of like, technically your charisma, and like, not because of my charisma, but because like you're so like you say that you're gonna do it, and you're talking over here, so people may not take you seriously." That's what she said. But then she's like, "But I just want to tell you one thing, dude. Don't ever change." She's like, "Because that's what makes you you, and that's why you're here today."
That's right. That's
I was
right.
like, I took that Adriana Newman shout out.
Yeah.
And so to your point, like, you kind of mentioned that could be my fear. That's true, because I've always known that. I'm like, sometimes people may not take me seriously, or I tell myself that because, of my personality and how I am and stuff like that, and how I tend to view life and just say the things the way I say things and stuff like that. But that is true, dude. But all that to say that where I want to land is I want to be used by God. And I don't want to be apologetic. I want to be unapologetically used by God.
That's right.
Especially in this season, dude. But I find myself entering into this new business. I have a business partner for the first time in my life. I've never had a business partner. He's a great guy, dude. So, I guess faith-wise, I could say we're like cousins,
Yeah.
Same family,
Yeah.
cousins. But but my fear is like how can I use, for example, let's just say, I'm not gonna speak it like as a what if. I'm gonna speak it like it is, because God will, right? But how can I use that platform, to share the gospel, to be the man who God wants me to be?
That's right.
Without hindering the business, especially in the early stages. You know what I'm saying? And so that thought has been circulating in my head, especially in recent days, because of what we've experienced as humanity in this country. I'm like, God, I don't want to tame myself, or I don't want to be ashamed or afraid.
Yeah.
Not ashamed, because I'm not ashamed, but I don't want to be afraid.
That's
you
right.
know? And I pray that prayer with a little bit of fear, because when you don't want to be afraid, God's like, okay, let's put you through the not afraid boot camp. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But all that to say that I don't want to be not shrewd,
Correct.
not wise. I want to grow the business. I want to grow it well.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if God were to give me a platform through that, not that I'm looking for the platform, but if because it grows or whatever, and we're not even there yet, and I'm already afraid of that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, man. I guess my question is like, what can you speak into that, dude? Or what are your thoughts?
That's a great question. Well, number one, I'm going to leave you with the words of Joshua 1:9. You think about Joshua, it's taking over from Moses, who just led the Hebrews out of captivity, and they spent 40 years in the wilderness, not making any progress because the people, not because of Moses. And then they all die off, and Moses is getting ready to die off. But Moses realizes, I can't take them into the promised land, but I got somebody that will. And he appoints Joshua. God appoints Joshua. And Joshua is a soldier, not a governor. And the words that God chooses to give Joshua in Joshua 1:9 is he tells him, Joshua, and he tells him 3 times, be strong and of good courage. Be strong and of good courage. Be strong and of good courage. Why does he tell a warrior to be strong and of good courage? He's not a fearful person. He's telling him that because he wants him to be him with the same intensity he was him in this next assignment. And you don't have to fear the loss or the effect of your boldness and the reality of WIFFY. Be authentically you and talk about God in everything that you do, because that is who you are, and don't back down from it. People will be attracted to your leadership because of your courage, not your adaptability to your current role. So WIFFY, be strong and courageous. Do it and be unapologetic. Most people won't sit in their dying bed saying, you know what? I wish I wouldn't have been as courageous. Most people will sit there and say, I wish I was more courageous about this. I wish I was bolder about this. I wish I would have said that. I wish I would have acted like that. I wish I would have done that. And so if you know sitting in somebody's deathbed, they would say, I wish I would have, not I wish I wouldn't have. That tells you, be you. And do it unapologetically. You'll attract who you need to attract, and even more, because you are unapologetically you. Joshua 1:9.
Bro, thank you for being here.
Absolutely.
I feel like we can go on and go on.
I know, so good.
And you know what, dude? I just want to tell you this. We took a break. I think it's been like 4 weeks today. We were steady. We did the 14 episodes pretty much steady. We had some like a week or two break in there just because Noah had to do something, I had to do something. But we were pretty consistent since June. But these last 4 weeks, we took a break just because life got busy. And with everything happening, I just, and I didn't invite new guests and stuff like that. But I say all that to say that for a second there, I was a little bit discouraged. And let me just tell you, dude, that this podcast right now, this conversation has blessed my life, dude.
Amen.
In ways that you can't even begin to imagine, dude. And not only have you blessed my life, but I feel encouraged. I feel encouraged to go out there and continue doing what we started, dude.
Right.
And specifically with this podcast as well, dude. So I just want to tell you that you've been like a refresher for me, and I'm sure Noah too, and for us in the podcast here, dude, today. And I know this podcast is going to bless a lot of people, dude. So. Amen. And I just want to tell my audience, man, I feel like I sat through a counseling session right now, man. The first time I cry on a podcast, but you know what? You've revamped me, man, and I appreciate you, man. I love you, dude.
Love you too, brother.
In the same way, I'll be praying for you, dude.
Thank you,
because I know God has great things for you, and like you said, you're still here because God wants to bless other people through your life, as He does all of us, guys.
That's right.
So thank you guys for watching the WIFFY Real podcast. If you stayed up until this point, man, I just want to say thank you for supporting the channel. But before we leave, dude, tell the audience again where they can find you, dude.
Yeah, awesome. Personally, I would love for you to connect with me on Instagram as Joey A. Salinas on my Instagram. Also, our School of Purpose has a website, schoolofpurposeaz.com, and you can also reach us on Instagram, Facebook at School of Purpose as well. We'd love to get you. We start classes in a couple weeks. If you feel like, hey, I need to grow deeper, I need to be discipled a little bit more thoroughly, or I want to kind of reach places I've never reached, dare yourself to put yourself in a night class with us and see what God does.
And with that said, guys, as we always close the WIFFY Real podcast, hoorah, baby.